Welcome to the Thought Leadership Podcast, where we share insights on how you can become the go-to thought leader in your niche. I'm your host, Alejandro Sanoja, founder and personal branding consultant at Latin Empresarios. And today, our guest is Ken Rusk. Ken spent his younger years digging ditches and working in construction. He never went to college. Instead, he made goals, planned, and worked hard for 30 years. Now, Ken is a very successful entrepreneur with multiple businesses and revenue streams. Ken Rusk specializes in mentoring and has coached hundreds of young people in areas such as short, mid, and long-term goal setting, life visualization, career paths, and sound financial planning. He's passionate about helping people achieve their dreams regardless of their educational background or past. Well, Ken, I'm so excited for this conversation. I read the book. I'm loving it. I was this close to not finishing college, so I totally identify with it. You have the data, you have the stories, you have the proof. And I think the big question here is, how do we make blue collar cool?
Well, for me, it's always been about getting the awareness out there that you have to understand that when you're in a blue collar career, you have a lot more control over your future. I mean, this is just something that when you think about it, you have control over your daily input, which controls your daily output, right? You have control over your time and the quality of your work, the schedule of your day. You have control usually over your financing because the harder you work, the more you work, the more people you employ, the more you can earn. So there just seems to be a tremendous amount of control that a blue collar career can give you, and especially over your future. And I think we just need to get back to recognizing that college is probably one of 5 or 6 different ways to get yourself an amazing future. It's not the only way. So for me, it's all about getting back to where we were back in the 70s and 80s and saying, hey, these are some amazing jobs that have some great rewards to them. We just got to get the word out and make people kind of reacquaint themselves with those.
It seems to me, Ken, that a lot of what's going on is that we're getting these messages of what we should do. You should go to college. You should buy a house. You should do this, right? Everywhere, the media, Instagram, everywhere, we're getting these messages. What are some of the ways in which we can shelter ourselves from those messages? If you could get a way, a strategy, something to shield young kids from understanding that there's nothing that they should do, but they should just follow what they want to do, what would that be?
I think that, and by the way, that is a great question. I think for me, it's about having them understand that, I say this all the time, you and only you know what you're passionate about. You and only you know what you could be good at. You and only you know what you want your life to look like, what you want your future to look like in every detail. So, I have kids sometimes, they'll take a poster board and I'll have them draw their perfect vacation. Okay. Well, one person draws a beach and the other person draws the mountains and the other person draws maybe going to New York City and the other person draws Disney World or whatever it might be. The point is that each one of us has our own unique outlook as to what our life could be like. So I start with, I'm going to use the old word empowering again, but I'm going to start with empowering kids to understand that they and only they know what their future would look like and what their perfect nirvana would be. And I guess once they say, once they get this thought firmly in mind, I'm not living to work. Okay. I'm working so that I can live. Well, let's find out what the live looks like. And then let's open up one of the many doors that can take us there. I think that's a good way to filter out some of the noise of, hey, there's only one path and it's only this way or the highway. And it seems to be very effective.
Now, that sounds great. Now let's go to the other side. We would try to do that to shelter people and get them to understand that there's many ways. Now, what are some ways in which we can let go of the beliefs that are not helping you? Let's aim to that high school student or people who maybe thinking about going to college. They've been in and out. They've been doing some different jobs, and they're still seeing these messages that you should go to college. What are some ways in which, some maybe practices, some activities we can do? What would be a plan for someone who wants to let go of those beliefs and stories that are not helping them?
I look at it this way, and I'll have to step back for a second to tell you how we got here in the first place. So what happened is in about the mid 80s, we decided to take shop class out of high school. Okay. So we eliminated the almost accidental discovery of kids, seeing what plumbing is like and what carpentry is like and what making a piece of furniture is like, what welding is like, or maybe fixing the transmission on a car, or maybe running a restaurant, in home economics. So we eliminated the possibility of those kids going down those paths, even in an accidental way. And we filled those rooms instead with computers. Now, obviously we had to learn computers. I completely get that. But I always wondered, why did it have to be a binary choice, one versus the other, right? So you have that situation where now the high schools all kind of became college prep schools overnight. And they now graded themselves on how many college degree or scholarships they could pump out of their high schools. And to me, if you look at the general population, okay, there's about 167 million of us working at any one time. Almost half of those people do something with their hands. So it's never been true that college is the only way. It's never been true in the history of our country. Our country was built on infrastructure and all these things that created the pathways to a lot of these white collar jobs. So, when you get out of bed in the morning and you're making your way to school, you're going to cross 400 different blue collar jobs just in the path from your bed to your desk. If you think about it, infrastructure, vehicles, gas, you think about lighting, you think about roads, all those types of things, those are still around. They haven't gone anywhere. And all I can tell you is some of the most happy people, there was a survey done that said some of the happiest people in job satisfaction are the ones in blue collar careers because they get to control so much of that. So I just think it's removing that stigma and having kids realize that, being a carpenter is pretty cool. And oh, by the way, I can make over $100,000 a year at least in doing that. And there's a lot of other jobs just like it.
Yeah. And that's something I was looking at your website, and that's something that is ranking pretty well and doing pretty well, that people are looking at, that how to make six figures without going to college. So there's definitely something there. I know you wrote the book, you're doing the interviews to get the message out. Has there been any other thoughts on doing something extra to promote, hey, blue collar jobs are cool? Maybe something like I'm thinking about, I think you mentioned in the book, the Mike Rowe TV show about the difficult jobs. Maybe something like I saw the millionaire, being a millionaire in 30 days, like Grant Cardone, and they did. Has there been some thoughts on how can we get this message massively out there through some TV show or something else, so that more people understand everything we've been talking about so far?
Well, yeah, we're hitting it on all cylinders. First off, we're working with junior achievement nationwide so that kids can understand that, there's more than one option here. Okay. We've got books in every junior achievement office across the country, and kids are starting to figure out what their options are. We also have a course that we built with junior achievement where kids can learn, how to really take control of their futures through visualization and being positive and reaffirming that, yes, I am in control of my future. So that's just one path. We're working, believe it or not, with decentralized organizations, okay, where we're going to do non-fungible tokens, which is going to be a charity event that people can sponsor up and coming kids that are going to be thinking about careers and even be able to invest in their companies. So we're doing a lot of different things. Obviously I'm talking with folks like you to help me get the message out. I've done a lot of podcasts, I've been on a lot of TV shows and radio shows. And, I know that this is something that needs to be put out there, only because so many people, especially people that are near retirement that are in these jobs, are like, man, I built a great life for myself and nobody wants to follow me and do this, come up behind me and take the job from me. So they just don't understand that because they've had such amazing careers, and they tell me all the time, keep pushing, keep getting that message out because it's one that needs to be heard.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm loving that. And now I know you've done the research. You have this stats on how much debt there is. You have the stats on how many people actually end up doing something not related to what they studied in college, and how many people are actually making almost the same amount of the average income per year that college people do without a college degree. So I was thinking, is there a hidden agenda to promoting college? Because the way I think about it is, okay, college was made in the majority of the places to train people for a particular skill set that some businesses needed in some particular areas. Now, it's been the same model. It's one of the models that has not changed. Right? We've changed the taxi industry, the hotel industry, many different industries. The education model has not changed. And there's this proof that it's not working. So, and I wanted to ask you this because, of course, you've done more research. But I was thinking, is it that the government or someone or something out there is pushing that because it helps the country? Right? Like if you push people towards going to college and getting educated in a particular area, maybe somehow there'll be more innovation, and that's how we get it. And the cost of that is the debt and everything that's going on. Or is there anything else behind that?
No, I really don't think so. First off, let's just look at a couple of stats here. So right now, they say that up to 40% of kids that go into college go in as undecided. Okay. So that's an issue right there. Then they say of the people that go in that are decided, 25% of them change their mind in the first year. So there's another inefficiency right there. Then they talk about the fact that a large percentage of kids, an alarming percentage of kids end up dropping out and not finishing school. And then of the ones that do get a college degree, many of them never use that ever. I mean, there's like 30, it's either 28 or 30% of the people that get college degrees never have a job in the field that they studied. So it is a pretty inefficient system. Mm-hmm. Now, I need to tell you, I'm not anti-college, okay? If you're going to operate on my shoulder so I can get back out on the golf course and play my game, I'm going to want you to know everything there is to know before you pick up that knife, okay? Same goes true with engineers and people who teach, or people who manage money, or architects or whatever. You're going to need to know everything there is to know, and you need to learn that in school to get that specific degree for a specific job. I think where you're headed, and I agree with you, is that whole segment of the young populace that are going to school and they have no reason to go. They don't know why they're going. They don't know what they want to study. They don't have a job on the other side. They're just getting sucked into this vortex of you have to go to college or else. And believe me, colleges are really good at marketing themselves. I mean, mm-hmm. They're fantastic at that. They're also good at shaming parents into believing that this is the only way. And the problem I have with that is you see all these schools with these huge endowments, billions and billions and billions of dollars, and they're buying up whole neighborhoods and redoing everything. And I'm thinking to myself, for what? I mean, what are they holding all that money for? So sometimes you have to think about following the money to understand where some of these problems lie. And again, I am not anti-college. I'm anti-colleges for everybody. And that's what they're trying to make it seem like. And mm-hmm. That's where the problem lies, because we all know that certain people learn tactily with their hands. Certain people learn by seeing things or hearing things or doing things. And we need this whole segment of the population to support this infrastructure. And, I always laugh because you hear a lot of these college professors that are talking about college, but then they complain that they can't find an electrician for 6 months. And that electrician's charging them $500 a day to be at their house. So, you got to have a balance in society, and you have to have a balance in the economy. And that's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah, absolutely. As I was reading the book, it reminded me of economic development course I took many years ago that talked about how in underdeveloped countries, it actually made more sense to not go to college and actually even drop from high school, because economically that person, the amount of time they would spend in the later years of high school and college would take so much away from the economy. As you point out in the book, it's not only the amount of money that you are paying during those 4 to 6 years that you're in college, but it's also the amount that you're not making because you're not doing a job. And also you are not putting anything out there for the economy. So as a whole, the country is losing. So yeah, I absolutely agree with that. Now, Ken, go
that's
ahead.
that's a really good point there. I want to add to that. So if you go to college and you're going in for a non-specific reason, you're just getting one of those bland business degrees that, aren't really specific, or an arts degree or whatever, that isn't necessarily translating, I'm going to med school to become a doctor. Okay. So you're just going there to get the degree. The problem that's happening is we are oversupplying the market with those degrees. So kids are actually thinking they're going to come out of college making $75,000 to $80,000 a year. And they're learning that they're only going to make 50 to 55,000 in reality. And the problem that I have with that is, if you spend $150,000 to get an education, to get a degree that's only going to pay you 50 or 55,000, that's a couple $100,000 over time. And you could start today as a carpenter's assistant and make $50,000 to $60,000 a year. That's a $200,000 swing on positive side of your asset base. So you're talking about, a $200,000 or $300,000 swing in your asset base from negative to positive. I'm just saying you need to at least think about that before you make that decision to go down the road and just take on all that debt.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think there's a case that it's also good for the economy. Many years ago, since I've taken a look at the economical factors, but I'm sure that with all that debt and everything that's going on, if the country as a whole understood that and took a deeper look, it might be better to start pushing people towards those other careers. And I know the big companies are doing, I think Google is not, they have their own program and they're not requiring college degrees anymore. You're seeing the revolution of the online courses now, where if you want to learn something specific, you just go for that, and people train you to do that specific skill, and then they even get you a job. I know there's coding schools.
Absolutely.
I think there's sales training program where basically they say, hey, pay this, and if we don't get you a job that lands you an X amount of money a month, we'll give you your money back. So they're basically, the incentives are aligned, right? Like, we'll train you, want you to make money, instead of in college, it's like, yeah, we'll train you, but after that, we don't know what's going to happen to you.
Right.
So in the book, Ken, you talk a lot about how you started supporting your employees to accomplishing specific goals. You were their guide. Hey, I have this debt that I don't know how to get out of. I wanna buy this car. I wanna buy this house. And you mentioned that it takes a while. It takes, I think in one example, it took 16 to 18 months to get to that first hurdle. In some cases, it took 5 years to actually accomplish those goals. So it's tough, right? They had you in those 5 years to keep reminding them that it's doable. I'm an example. I'm here to help you. I'm here to guide you. Is there something out there, or are you thinking about putting something out there for people to either create their own mastermind groups, to be part of a community, so that they can have their own Ken in their 5-year journey and support them when they think it's not doable?
Well, the answer to that is yes. I'm trying to, I have these vision boards that are mounted on the walls of my office building here. Okay. And people, when they want to set a goal, they have to really commit to it. First off, then they have to specifically split it out as to how they're going to accomplish that. I'm going to buy a new car in a year. I'm going to save $2,000 for a down payment. So I'm going to save $40 a week for a year. I'm going to start in January. I'm going to end it in December. I'm going to buy the car at Christmas time, and boom. And then everybody else, they write that on the board, and everybody else gets to share in that and kind of help and push them along to get their goal. So wouldn't it be cool if we could do this digitally somehow, where people around the country could all sign on to this goal board and find a way to, have, instead of a couple of hundred people in my office building, maybe have 10 or 15,000 people pushing them along their goals. So yeah, that's something that we're trying to figure out how to do electronically, almost like some type of a community. The other thing is, I just decided that I'm going to start doing a podcast. And one of the things I'm going to do there is to try to get people to understand how important vision is in their daily lives. And, hopefully I can get that out to the masses so that they can go home and create their own vision boards like I do all the time, and learn how to rely upon the power of their brain that they currently aren't using. And that is long-term forecasting with super crystal clear creativity and absolutely demonstrable steps that they can take to get from A to Z, and start living a life of anticipation. Okay. Where, you used to anticipate vacations, or maybe you anticipated a holiday upcoming, or, an event. Well, I want you to anticipate every aspect of your life. I want you to anticipate, your retirement when you're young. I want you to anticipate, your first house, your maybe your upgraded car, your next vacation, your next charity moment. How am I going to give back to the community? I want you to anticipate your hobbies and your health, and what kind of pets you might have, and what color and what kind, and what would you name them? I want you to anticipate all these goals, whether they're 6 months or, 16 months or 16 years. I want you to think about all these things, because in my mind, that is the truly soulful way to live. To reach that nirvana that I talk about, comfort, peace, and freedom. That's the way to do it, is to anticipate so many different things along the way. And it's just a really cool way to live.
Absolutely. And I love it because I see that you served as the guide. You were helping with the crayon exercise and then the conversations. And I do the same with my team, but I notice that in other communities, I am that person that needs the support. I'm in a writing community, and we have our weekly calls where we each other interacting. We see that we're struggling. So that helps you stay committed. So definitely there's a lot of resources out there for how to do that. You can either do it through Slack in a community, and it wouldn't require that much of your time, but I'm sure I might be able to send some links. But if your team can do that, where there's a Slack community of blue collar people that want to go blue collar, and they're all supported and they have those methodologies, I am sure that the amount of people that would embrace the path of understanding that blue collar can be cool would be way higher. And thank you for all that you're doing in that.
Oh, thank you. Absolutely.
I want to take a different turn here, and this is more of a personal, egotistical question. But I noticed that when you told the story about your dad, you mentioned his last name, and I'm probably going to butcher this, but it was Rusniaczyk. Is that correct?
Yeah, if you're Polish, you have to roll the tongue a little bit. It's called Rusnodziek, but yeah, that's true.
Okay. So, and then your last name is Rusk. Why that change? And I ask because, as you see, my name is Alejandro Sanoja, and people struggle here with the J. So I understand that there might be some humility. I think, well, it's my name. Houston is a very international city. Why would I change it if it's going to change my family name? But then I see you kind of like went through that change. So I wanted to get your perspective on how did that happen? Why did you do it? And walk us through that, please.
My father did it when I was very, very young. I had 4 brothers, and we were all very, very young together. We had 5 boys living in a house under the age of 9. Okay. So it was just chaos. And when we started going to school, none of the teachers could pronounce it. None of the teachers could spell it. We weren't getting mail. I mean, it was just, for some reason, I don't know why. It just, my father just woke up one day and he said, you know what? I'm done with all this confusion. I'm just going to shorten our name. And we were like, I mean, I was probably, I don't know, 5 years old, I guess, when he did it. maybe less than that. So I don't really even remember a whole lot about it being a big deal. But yeah, he just decided to go from that long name to a short name just to make it easy on everybody. And so I think the teachers all appreciated it. But yeah, it was, it's funny because I love the fact that you asked that question. I've never been asked that before. But I do remember specifically it was about trying to make life easier for everybody out there that was trying to deal with this crazy 5-kid family that was hell bent on chaos at the time.
That makes sense. That makes sense. I thought it was you who at some point, due to some like marketing component or some like
No.
you said, making it easier for people, that you thought, well, let me just change it. Because I've thought about that, because I noticed that people sometimes get uncomfortable when they're gonna read the name, and I don't really want that to happen. But yeah, that makes sense that it was him who did
Right.
it. Yeah. Now, another component that I've seen throughout the book, I think you go from kind of like the practical up to the spiritual. And I see, maybe I'm reading this because I'm getting into this component in my life, but I see a lot of spirituality in the book. You talk about choosing the emotions you let in. You talk about life happening for you and not to you. You talk about allowing grace to flow through you. Are you a super spiritual and or religious person? Was this on purpose that you did it in the book? Let me put it at the end to make people connect with the money and the tangible things, and then guide them through this other path. Or was that just like you were not really thinking about that and it just happened naturally?
It's again, great question. To me, it just seems like, we're all going through this world. We all get about 90 years on the planet. And I think we all need to be just as cool as we can be to ourselves and to each other. And so it just seems to me like when it comes to giving back, for example, okay, I'll just take that one example. So many times I've been to these black tie events where they have these, silent auctions, and people go up and they bid on things, and they know the money's going to charity, but they kind of expect something in return, whether they're bidding on a wine package or a vacation or whatever. The money goes to charity, but they get the vacation. And that's fine. I understand that people are trying to raise money. I get that. But to me, I never thought about giving money as something I wanted to expect something in return. Okay. I give my time, my talent, and my treasure, not wanting anything in return. Okay. But I will tell you this, there's just this kind of karma thing where the more you're willing to give back, the more you seem to get bestowed upon you. And then it signals to you, wow, that's really cool. So I'm going to give back even more. So it's really an amazing thing. I think somebody asked me the other day in a book interview, they said, what makes you angry? And I said, unnecessary drama. Okay. Mm-hmm. Things that are just negative. There's negative energy and none of it matters to the world. The world's just going to keep spinning. This person thinks that's really important, but it's not. Okay. It's unnecessary. So I try to say to the people that I coach, your emotions are a choice, and you should fill your head with the most positive ones that you can, because you only have room for so many emotions. It's like a nightclub. I mean, they have someone standing at the door, and if you're going to let joy in, frustration can't get there. Okay. Mm-hmm. If you're going to let anger in, happiness can't get there. So for me, it's all about putting as many positive emotions as you can into your head. And I can tell you that giving back of yourself to other people, that is an amazing place to live. I mean, it is such a great thing for your mind, for, again, your spirituality, your peace, your comfort, your freedom. These are all things that I think that we need to recognize, that they're choices that we have to actively do that, like exercise. Exercise doesn't just happen. You have to actively go do that, make that choice. So I'm all for, I'm all for supporting just awesome energy amongst not only myself, but amongst other people. And, someone told me a long time ago that if somebody meets you on the street and they walk away better for having met you than they were when they got there, then you've done your job. So, I'll talk to a little old lady in the grocery store and ask her how her day's going as quickly as I'll meet someone on the street. And I just think it's good to just kind of spread that whole positive energy around, because there's enough negatives going around that we need to kind of combat that with.
Absolutely. And talking about being a source of positive energy, I know you've been that in your business through the stories. And I wanted to ask you about that, because there's a moment when somebody asks you about some troubles they were going through. And that has recently been happening in my business. And I noticed a light bulb went on, and this is like, oh, this means leveling up in the game of business. It's not all about sales and revenue. It's really about what is the impact that you're having in the people around you. And as you help them level up and you help them accomplish their goals, be a little bit more disciplined, get some of the strength and the value that you've built, you share with them. That's how the business grows. So of course, you've gone through that path. Are there, in my head, it came to my mind, okay, that's a stepping stone. That's a milestone. When the people that work with you, your team, when they trust you to that level of personal challenges, that means you're leveling up. Are there any other moments like that come to mind, instead of just the revenue and the typical measures that people use? I think that's a result of these other internal, actually, stepping stones. Or is anything else coming to mind in terms of those moments that clicked, that you knew you were playing the game of business at a high level and not related to revenue?
Yeah, this is a big one. So, if you think about the typical organization, okay, there's certain groups of people that do certain jobs, and then there's management groups of people, and then there's CEOs or managers or bosses or whatever you want to call them, owners, whatever it might be. And that typically forms some kind of hierarchy. Okay. Well, for me, I always said that if you would line up all 200 of my employees, including me, shoulder to shoulder in the parking lot, and you stood there and looked at us, I would not want you to be able to automatically pick out who the boss was, meaning me. Okay. Because to me, I never wanted to have that kind of autonomy or whatever that was. I always felt like it was better if everyone succeeded for themselves, then I will always succeed in the end. So I always make the statement that I can't get what I want, nor can I get what my company wants or needs, until all of you get what you want first. And I absolutely mean that, because I am more proud of the accomplishments of the people that work here than the accomplishments of my own. Because, if everyone's doing their thing and everyone's getting what they want for themselves with and through my company, that's a huge feather in my cap, that I've built a vehicle through which they can create a life for themselves. And I can tell you this, to any of the bosses or managers or owners or anyone that's hiring people out there, if you can get people to say, what's in it for me to work for you, Ken? And then you can answer that question by saying, well, you can run your own life, you can run your own money, you can run your own future, you can build entrepreneurial employees within your organization. They will look back at you and say, cool, thanks for the training. Now get out of my way and let me go do it. And your company will go way further than you can drag it yourself. There is no doubt about that. Okay. I would debate anybody who thinks that, top down, me boss, you employee attitude is going to work in this day and age. It's just not. So I applaud the people that make gains for themselves within my company, because I know in the end, I'm going to win. Okay. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be just fine. And it's just been a really non-stress and pretty cool way to run a company.
Yeah. So let's go deeper into that, Ken. It seems that you have a balanced approach. You talk a lot about your obsessive personality, discipline, and there's a lot of components that are setting your goals and having the plan and working the plan. And then there's this other side of understanding that people are going through these challenges. So are there any guardrails, any metrics, any questions that you ask yourself often to understand that you are balanced between playing the long game versus pushing when you have to push. Because I struggle with that, like you, obsessive, discipline, and sometimes I feel, well, that's just me. I don't need to put that on other people. I'll help them get what they want to get. And sometimes I see they're struggling, and I ask myself, should I be a little bit tougher? Not because of what I want, but because I know it can help them. Or should I let things flow and let them deal with that obstacle? So I wanted to ask you, how do you know when you're just pushing your obsessive mindset on somebody else and it's too much, and when you're not actually helping them with that little push that might be needed to get them to follow the path?
So, I mean, again, not to repeat myself, but another great question. So well done there. First off, if everybody in this building isn't chasing something for themselves, that's a problem right off the bat. Okay. So typically, if I have to push someone or if I have to get tough with someone, it's because they aren't doing it for themselves. They feel like they're living for Friday. Okay. I'm living to get paid because there's more month at the end of my money and I'm frustrated. So for me, it's all about coaching them to say, well, what do you want? I mean, why are you here? Because I'm more interested in why you're here than why I'm here. Okay. So if I can align somebody to say, well, okay, you know, I hear this conversation. I'll just run through it with you real quick. So why are you here? Well, because I need a job. A job for what? So I can get some money. Okay. Money for what? So I can pay my bills. Okay. Now, assuming your bills are all caught up, then what would you spend your extra money on? Whoa. You get this, well, I don't know. I've never really thought about it that way. I've only thought about just surviving. And then you get this other conversation happening where now you're onto something, because now you've got that person thinking beyond the doldrums of just daily life. And they're thinking of, well, what could I do for me? Okay. Mm-hmm. And I'm okay if these people within my organization get a little selfish, because I say selfish in a positive word, meaning self-ish. They're worried about themselves. They're not necessarily worrying about themselves at the detriment of others. Okay. So let's get that straight. So selfish is cool inside of an organization if they think they can get what they want for their lives with and through your company. Now, when it comes to entrepreneurialism, okay, this is the biggest non-story that I've, people will say, well, you know what, Ken, you're lucky because you're one of those entrepreneurs. And then I give them a crayon and a piece of paper and I say, okay, draw entrepreneur for me. They can't, because it's a concept. So I look at it this way. In the book, I talk about there's like 9 characteristics for being an entrepreneur, discipline and faith and courage and initiative and persistence and resilience and humility and all those things. So I believe every one of us has the ability to have all of those entrepreneurial characteristics within ourselves. I mean, our brain has the ability to initiate. Our brain has the ability to be, humble. Our brain has the ability to be persistent if it wants to. So because all those characteristics are already in all of our brains, we just need a reason to let them out. It's kind of like the shoes in the back of your closet that you haven't worn. Okay. You just need a reason to let those things out. And I submit that if you have a strong enough drive with that picture of what you want your life to look like in vivid, colorful detail, all those little characteristics of an entrepreneur will wake up inside of you and start to project themselves. And that's where I want to get with somebody. Now I've got somebody that's going to say, hey, man, I can build the life that I want. Let me go do it, because I can see down the road, 6 months, 6 years, 16, I can see what I want down there. I have a clear path on how to get it. All I need to do is use your vehicle and I'm going to make that happen. Every one of us can be an entrepreneur. We just need a reason why.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, Ken, do you do that? I know you talk about the exercise of drawing that. Is that a process that you do yearly with everyone in your team? Do you do it with your managers and then the managers do it with their team? Tactically, how does that work in your company?
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, if they say the hardest thing to do is to teach the teachers, right? It's easy for me to train the end user, but to teach the teacher how to train the end users is a little more difficult. So I spend a lot of time making sure that all of the people that are managing here, they know how to get somebody into chase mode, which is, I'm chasing my next vacation, or I'm chasing paying off a visa, or I'm chasing learning how to speak German, or whatever it is that they want to do. They get them into a mode of, okay, I'm after something. And once you do that with, a typical person, once they've gained 2 or 3 things that they've decided to do, you're done with it now. They are a self-driven, motivated, goal-oriented machine. And you just kind of like let it happen at that point. And they do great things for your company, but they're doing great things for themselves along the way.
That's a good point. Once they see that it works, they just embrace it. Now, Ken, we've talked about being a coach, being a leader, being an entrepreneur, being a blue collar worker. When people ask you, what do you do? What is your typical answer?
Well, I hope that what I'm doing now is showing people that there is a clear-cut way to get the life that they want, and that they are in control of it. I built this book for that reason. I have this course that I have for that reason. The course is something where if you get involved and buy a book and you buy this course at kenrusk.com and you want to help yourself, I automatically donate one for everyone sold to somebody in need. And that could be somebody of your choice or somebody that I choose, because I need to get this message out there that there is hope for every one of us. There is an entrepreneur in every one of us, and we are in control of that. And oh, by the way, a blue collar option, because they're so in demand right now, and they will be for a long time in the future, is a really good option to make that happen. So I'm just trying to open up a whole new thought process for these folks, and get them on the path to something that they really want for themselves.
Ken, I have so many more questions, but I want to be mindful because we know we're getting short on time. Is there anything else, any parting thoughts? We'll link to the book, we'll link to the website and the course. Anything else that you'd like to get out there to anybody listening to this conversation?
Yeah, I would just say this, that the law of supply and demand will never fail you. Okay. Now, if you try to manipulate either side of it, yeah, you can get tricky, and sometimes governments like to do that or markets like to do that. But be a contrarian thinker. If everyone is going this way, you might want to think about going that way, because where there's imbalance in any market or in any career path, that's where the money goes. Where supply is low and demand is high, that's where the money flows. Ditch digging for me was probably 99 on the list of 100 things. But I knew I could make a great living at it, and I knew I could do a lot of great investing and do some of the other things that I wanted to do now and I am doing. So don't be afraid to be a contrarian thinker and do what others aren't, because that's where the money is. You can always invest it in those other things that you eventually want to do down the road. And I talk a lot about this on my Facebook page at Ken Rusk Official, and on all my socials, Ken Rusk Official. So just know that if you go there and you help yourself, I'm going to make sure that you are helping somebody else in the process. And again, I don't think there's a better way to live than to, it's incumbent upon all of us to give back in some way. And that's what I'm trying to do here.
Ken, thank you so much for the conversation. It's been amazing. Thank you for taking the time to write the book and get that message out there, because I know it's not easy to write a book. It seems simple to see the pages there in the final product, but I know it's a lot of work. We may have to do a round 2. I have so many more questions that I want to ask about your dad and your daughter, but we'll see what happens. Thank you again. And for everybody out there listening, thank you for being here with us, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Take care. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.